Hey everyone, Michael Makrowitz with Coldwell Banker Realty. We are a little bit more than halfway through the year, so I just wanted to take a look back to see how was our local housing market in Santa Clara County for the first half of the year, also comparing that to what we saw last year and maybe what we can expect for the second half of this year coming up. Now, it's a little bit more difficult to characterize how the first half of this year has been compared to last year, because last year was an easy answer. Pretty much the most competitive housing market that we've ever seen, and essentially multiple offers on nearly every property. Now, I describe the first quarter, the first 3 months of this year, as kind of apprehensive, the market not knowing yet what it wanted to be. There were a lot of buyers that were out and looking, but they weren't quite ready to actually start submitting offers. Now, second quarter of this year, the April, May, June, that's where I saw things change. I saw a lot more buyers entering the market, a lot more people at open houses, and starting to see a lot more offers on properties in multiple offer situations and prices going above and beyond the asking price. And the median sales price for Santa Clara County over that time period reflects that feeling and that shift of how competitive the market was, because from the first quarter of this year to the second quarter, the prices went up 13.7%. And for the second quarter of this year compared to the same time last year, it was down only 3.5%, which, given that last year was the highest that the prices have ever been, it's actually surprising to see that it's really only that small of a difference. But how can the prices be that little changed over that time period when we saw such a huge market correction from April to August of last year? The primary reason, and it's one of the leading indicators that I talk about, or the factors that kind of point to where prices might be headed, and that is inventory. The numbers of properties on the market, it's just remained extremely low. First couple months of this year, we had more properties on the market than we did at the beginning of last year. But in the third month, that flipped, and it stayed the same way pretty much ever since, with just not a lot of new properties coming on the market. But why is that? I mean, I can say I've heard this from clients. I've read it in news articles. I've even had this exact thought myself, which is I really don't want to sell and lose my 3% or less 30-year fixed mortgage to then go buy most likely a more expensive home at more than double the interest rate. Now, interest rates are kind of a new addition to the reason why sellers are deciding to stay put instead of selling. Those interest rates are also one of the leading indicators that I've talked about in the past of where the prices might be headed based on what the interest rates are doing. Now, for years, I've seen the predominant reason for people selling being them cashing out, taking that money, buying out of the area or out of state. And I still see that as the predominant reason why people are moving. People don't focus as much on the interest rates if they're able to sell their home and then make the next purchase potentially all cash. But for the move-up buyers or the downsizing buyers that would be selling to be in a different school district, or to have more space with a growing family, or be downsizing because they don't want to deal with stairs, those are the sellers that I see deciding not as much to sell. The phrase I've heard the most is, yeah, I know that my home is going to sell really quickly, but my concern is finding a replacement property, and even if I do, dealing with a lot of competition potentially on that home. And those are the two main reasons, the two main factors that have affected the prices here for us locally. I mean, for Santa Clara County, for June of this year compared to June of last year, we're actually up 3.1%. Now, the difference, though, between the first half of this year and the first half of last year is the kind of competition that we saw. Last year, it didn't much matter what kind of property it was, what kind of condition it was in. If it was on a busy street, there was going to be competition. Now, this year, I've seen some properties receive 40 plus offers. I've seen other ones sit on the market for 2 to 3 months. It's because buyers, because of the interest rates have gone up so much, have decided to be more discerning. Does the home have a lot of deferred maintenance? Is it on a busy street? These are the kinds of homes that are going to sit on the market for longer. But if it's desirable, either because of the condition or the location or both, you are going to see a fair amount of competition on those properties. Now, this period of sitting on the market, this is another one of our leading indicators. We are measuring the days on market from the time that the home comes on the market till an offer is accepted. The longer a home sits on the market, the chances of them getting the asking price start to go down. There's exceptions to this, But usually if a home starts to sit for a few weeks, the first thing you need to consider is a price reduction. Now, the days on market stat for the second quarter of this year compared to last year is interesting because it's astounding how much the difference is between taking the average and the median. Now, I know this is simple math, but just so you don't have to think about it, average being all the properties that are on the market, their days on market added up and divided by the number of properties. The median is that property that falls right in the middle of all those properties and what the days on market is for that specific home. Now, this year compared to last year, the average days on market for a home to sell is up 64%, but the median is completely unchanged. So why such a big difference between the average and the median days on market when we're talking about something that measures something very similar? Now, I think it's because the homes that might have sat on the market for a while longer last year are sitting on the market even longer this year. In general, I'm also seeing a lot more properties sitting on the market, but for those homes that appeal to the greatest number of buyers, and from a price perspective, they fall right in the middle. Those kinds of homes are still selling just as quickly as they were last year. So for the homes that kind of fall in the middle, they're still highly desirable, selling really quickly, but you are having more homes in general sitting on the market longer, and it's throwing off that average. Now, the question is, why are those properties sitting on the market longer? And I'll say after 17 years of experience selling homes, it really comes down to three things. It's pricing, it's presentation, and it's the marketing. I'm in the process of doing this right now with a listing I have coming up in Cambrian. We are decluttering, we are painting, we're getting ready to clean, we're doing last minute fixes to the home that showed up on the property inspection. We're planning to stage, get professional photography done. I'll say this makes a big difference even in really competitive markets, but it is essential in slightly slower markets. And honestly, this can be the difference between a home selling within a week or it's sitting on the market for 3-4+ weeks. So how would I describe this current market? It is most certainly a seller's market, not to the extent that it was in the first half of last year, but if you're the seller, you're still in the driver's seat. Now, for buyers, it depends on the kind of property that you're looking for. Most buyers have a specific area that they want to be for convenience or for schools, or they're looking for a home that's particularly remodeled. Those are the kinds of homes that appeal to the majority of buyers. And if you're going for those kinds of properties, expect that there's at least going to be another couple offers competing with you. Now, if you have that flexibility to go after a property that's been sitting on the market longer, either because it's overpriced or has a particular feature that's not as desirable to the majority of buyers, you can avoid that competition and potentially get a good discount on that price. But also, be aware that if there's a particular physical aspect of the home that's been a deterrent to buyers, that could be a challenge for you when the time comes to sell as well. So if you're just planning ahead long term, that's something to be aware of. Now, I kind of expect that the interest rates are going to stay in that 6.5% to 7% range for the foreseeable future, even though we are seeing some positive news about inflation being maintained. And still, keeping it in perspective, over the last 50 years, the average interest rate was just under 8%. So, the rates that we're seeing now are not particularly shocking looking at them through the lens of history, but obviously what is shocking is seeing how quickly they went up in essentially a 2 or 3 month period last year. Now, be aware that there's also some lenders that are becoming more conservative in the types of loans that they're making and the percentage that they require down, also the credit scores that they require for people to qualify. Now, I do appreciate this conservative approach moving forward so we don't have a repeat of 2008, but it is something to be aware of that qualifying for a loan can become more difficult and can affect the amount that you're able to buy. But as far as leading indicators that are going to dictate where the prices are headed, our inventory still remains extremely low. I think that's going to be the biggest factor of where prices are headed moving through the rest of the year. Now, so this is a very nuanced housing market. The advice that I give to my clients truly depends on the situation that they are in. So if you're looking at different scenarios of how to plan, what to do, give me a call. Let's talk.